you got the kids in flag football at all? Because I got a 7-year-old boy who's just now starting
They
that.
need to be in it. They need to be
Yeah.
in it. I think we signed them up for one, but the games are at like 1 o'clock on Sunday or something. So then we had to find a different league. So we're in the process of figuring that out. But I mean, they're going to absolutely love flag football.
I'm so glad that we're talking about your boys, because that was the first thing I thought when I saw the transition for your family going from Minnesota to Atlanta, is when you were going through that process of making a decision of where you're going to play, how were you informing the boys in your house?
Well, it's a great question. I think it was made clear to them as we were going that we don't know where Dad's going to be playing next. That could be Minnesota. It could be a new team. They're just young enough where I think moving is not a big stress on them, but we're at that age where another move would be. I think they're excited for the new challenge, but we did have to say goodbye to neighbors and friends and our, teachers at the school. So there were some changes, but if nothing else, it'll build some grit in them, and I think they've settled in well in Atlanta.
How's it been being back in Atlanta with obviously Julie's from that area? And I got to say, man, everyone watched quarterback, and I know you personally, and your fashion style is your fashion style. But I saw you show up to camp in the Atlanta Hawks jersey with the cutoffs, showing the guns. Was that sort of her doing, or did you pull that string yourself?
Well, she likes to, because she sees on social media that people arrive at camp in different outfits, and so she said, you should do something, and I obviously was like, well, that's not necessarily my vibe, but okay. And I love Mitchell and Ness. I love their jerseys. That's like a thing for me. I just like to collect jerseys that I'll probably rarely ever wear. And I went into my closet saying, I don't have a ton of options to spice it up. I said, I do have a Steve Smith, Michigan State grad like me.
Let's go.
Atlanta Hawks jersey throwback from when I was growing up watching them. That was the jersey they wore. So I thought that could work well. So we wore it. We had fun with it. I love that people in Atlanta, it was well received. But, the story behind that is really Steve's a Michigan State guy, so I had to pay homage to him. I grew up in the 90s, and that was kind of my memories of the Atlanta Hawks, those jerseys. And then I just love jerseys. So, I really don't discriminate. I'll just collect anything that I think is cool.
That's awesome.
Kirk, during free agency, you were the biggest story. It was where Kirk Cousins is going to land and everything else that appeared. It just, everyone wanted to know what you were going to do. It appeared that you loved Minnesota. Minnesota certainly loved you, just from us all observing it, us all having conversations with people there. Were there any other teams during that free agency period outside Atlanta that you heard later that had shown some interest in you?
I think it was similar to 2018 when I went through free agency where, there's, interest, but you feel like when it starts to become who's serious, it's probably a little narrower field. And I did feel like I had a great thing going with Minnesota. So it was going to take a really special opportunity not to continue with Minnesota. And that's really what Atlanta provided when I looked at the roster, when I looked at, just kind of what we would have here on the field, certainly what we would have here off the field. It felt like a great opportunity for us, and certainly a big change, but feel good about where we landed.
Was it difficult to leave Minnesota, especially with your relationship with Kevin O'Connell? Obviously, he was your quarterback coach way back when. Take us into that decision because, from the outsider perspective, knowing and going through free agency like I have plenty of times because I've been on a ton of different teams, it can be a little bit interesting, but did they make a last minute push? When did you sort of know in your heart that it might be over, that you were moving on?
They were pretty consistent on what they were willing to do. They didn't play games, which through the whole process, my agent made it very clear that Minnesota's been great. They've been honest. They've been upfront. They didn't play games. It was difficult to start over, having done it in Washington to Minnesota already. It's never easy to learn a new system, learn all new teammates, especially when what you're leaving has been positive. So Kevin as a head coach was difficult to leave. Justin Jefferson's difficult to leave. Jordan Addison, T.J. Hawkinson. There were a lot of positives, but ultimately I just felt like, it was going to be, it had been, and it was going to be basically 1 year. And I felt, maybe I do play in Minnesota for another 5 or 6 years, but it's going to be on 1 year contracts. That's how they want, that's the path they've chosen that they want to walk. So I thought, okay, I don't really want to do that. If there's a better, I'll do it if it's my only option. And it ended up not being my only option. So when an opportunity, yeah.
Was there any conversation with the Vikings and yourself about them possibly drafting a quarterback, and that's why they wanted to do these 1 years? Because to me, you're a franchise player, bro. Like, it makes no sense whatsoever to do 1 year deals.
Yeah, I don't think they were ready to go there yet in March. I think the reality is just that they wanted to give themselves that flexibility. And I remember Kevin's words, which I'm not going to hold him to them, were, hey, if we sign you back, I would think it's very unlikely that we would draft somebody. It was something to that effect. But I also know in the league things change. So even if he says that, it's not like I'm going to, hold him to that. But his approach was, I just don't see us doing that if you're back. If you're not back, then we have to. But and then obviously, you have those discussions of, okay, then change the structure of the contract.
No doubt. That's what I'm saying.
And that didn't happen. So then like I said, you take what you can. I deal in reality. And if reality is 1 year offers, then you do 1 year offers. If you get a better option, then you get a better option. So, it is what it is. But the bottom line is Minnesota was great through the process. They were honest. It was a great place to play. It was difficult to leave. And it took a special opportunity in Atlanta to have me leave.
Kirk, we talk about on the show a lot. I say a lot. We're 2 weeks in, but either way, we do talk a lot. Just
Feels
about
like a
that.
long time.
Yeah, it does. It does feel like 7 years. The idea of showing you the love and telling you the love, right? There's a difference in business, right? People can say a lot of things, but if the actions don't back it up, it doesn't mean anything. So while you cherish your time in Minnesota and you obviously have so much respect for them, they love you, you love them. In the end, it just wasn't the right fit for both parties at this point. And now you have a fresh start in Atlanta, right? So then we get to the draft, and I was in touch with people with the Falcons organization that night and some people close to you, and there just seemed to be a surprise in this decision for them to go quarterback. What was that like for you as soon as you heard that they were going to probably go in the direction of picking a quarterback?
It reminded me of 2012 when I was drafted, because I was a fourth-round pick. I was a nobody. I was pick 102. So I was on the third day of the draft, long after people have been gathered around their TVs watching it. And yet when the draft was over, one of the main storylines of the 2012 draft was that Washington took a quarterback after taking a quarterback. So it was interesting to be, that as a fourth-round pick to kind of show up at rookie minicamp, and the narrative was kind of why are you here? Or how do you feel about being here? And so it was a similar dynamic now, where it was, again, drafting a quarterback in a way that surprised people. But similar to the conversation we were just talking about, you know that anything can happen. Things change quickly in this league. And if I've learned anything in 12 years, it's that, there's not much entitlement. You got to earn your way, and you never know what could come next. And just go out and play the best you can, and believe that if you play really well at the quarterback position, there should always be a team or a market for you to be able to keep playing.
What did Julie say to you when that happened that night? Was she like, are you kidding?
Yeah, something like that. She was certainly surprised, but I think it's, again, just kind of been a part of my story. When I signed with Michigan State, Nick Foles, we offered him shortly thereafter.
Oh,
and,
wow. I did not know that.
Oh, that's
yeah,
interesting. You
so
love complicated
I remember I
quarterback
signed my
rooms.
scholarship. So Michigan State, there's like 5 or 6 quarterbacks they offered ahead of me, and they told me, again, they were upfront and honest on my visit. They said, we aren't going to offer you yet. We've offered 5 other quarterbacks. If we somehow don't get them all, we would seriously consider you, but you're kind of this backup option. Well, as we got to Christmas, and after Christmas and signing days getting closer, those 5 quarterbacks all decided to go elsewhere. And so Michigan State offered me, and I, the very next day, committed. And then a few weeks later, after signing day, when you've signed your scholarship, and back then you couldn't get out without a penalty, you couldn't transfer, the head coach called me and said, we're going to offer another quarterback, Nick Foles. And so from day one, you pretty much realize, because I Googled Nick Foles, and he played in the Texas State Championship at the biggest division. He had broken Drew Brees' records at the high school in Austin. And I thought, oh no, I'm in trouble. I'm just putting this together. I'll never play at Michigan State. And so obviously, as it worked out, not only did I get to play at Michigan State, but Nick Foles also went on to become a Super Bowl MVP. So I've learned that these things have a way of working themselves out, where if you can play, you'll always have an opportunity somewhere. And if the other guy can play, he'll always have an opportunity somewhere. There just seems to be a demand for quarterbacks. And the key isn't so much what's around you as it is to focus on what you can control, play well, and that'll lead to good things.
Look, doing some research on you, specifically in the Michigan State days, you got speared in the back and pummeled while running the scout team at Michigan State. You just brought it up. And your quote was saying, the way I'm wired is, if you want to do that, I'm going to destroy you. I'm going to make your defense look bad. I'm going to throw it as deep as I can, as many times as I can. In other words, sort of like going scorched earth. Did that play into it a little bit with the Penix draft night? Like, are you feeling like you have to go scorched earth on people this year and prove to them that you are the guy?
Well, I hope we have a big year. I'll put it that way. I don't know that I would, if we have a big year, I don't know that I would say it's for any specific reason, but hopefully we light it up. I do remember being a freshman on the scout team at Michigan State, and the quarterback was live. And I remember telling that to my pro teammates, other quarterbacks who are used to wearing red jerseys, and they said, wait a minute, you were live on your scout team in college? I said, yeah. And I'll never forget, the quarterback said to me, that's barbaric. They were bringing, I remember one time it was a corner blitz, and there's no chance that a freshman running back has a chance to pick up a corner blitz from a senior corner that they're disguising, they're practicing. We don't watch tape, we don't prepare for it. That corner blitz is not getting picked up. And sure enough, I was just dropping back, and he just helmet to the back speared me. And it certainly built grit. It certainly built toughness. I think our head coach would watch like 2 of those happen, and then he would say, all right, rest of practice, quarterback is protected. But what would happen would be our defense would give up like 35 or 40 points, and we'd lose a close game. And inevitably the next Tuesday it was quarterback's live again. So I was always just praying on the weekends, please stop people, please win. Because if we can win a low-scoring game, I'll be protected the next week.
No doubt. That's hilarious.
Chase, I covered Kirk Cousins in 2012 when Robert Griffin III was there, when they were with the then Redskins. And I was always so inspired, even as a young reporter, watching Kirk handle what I think was a complicated locker room in general. There was a lot of drama, obviously, just that came with Washington, but also just that competition and playing behind, a player of his caliber at the time who was a superstar his rookie year. What did you learn from your time being in Washington, being around Robert, when you were in a little bit of a complicated scenario that you're using now at your age as the starter in Atlanta?
Well, I think I learned it's a marathon, not a sprint. And you have to just take it one day at a time and believe that the accumulation of knowledge and skill development is a powerful thing. And if you can just keep getting better every single day behind the scenes, the invisible days, if you can handle your business then, it will eventually come to the surface and make a difference in the long game. And so I just have kind of learned a lot about what it means to try to play for the long game, to win the long game, and that many times when you're playing for the long game, you may have to lose a few short games, if you will, to get there. So that was a lesson for me, but also just a reminder, the lasting memory would be all the great people I was around. I think it was an incredible blessing to – Chase knows this. When you're around good coaches, you always have a chance. And so Mike Shanahan, Kyle Shanahan, Matt LaFleur, Sean McVay, Mike McDaniel, to be around those people all in one quarterback room, I honestly think that may have been one of the biggest reasons I'm still talking to you and still playing football, is that from day one, I was in a position where I had a chance to be successful because of good coaches, a good system who knew what they were doing. And it kind of set the foundation for the entire rest of my football journey, where as they left and new coaches would inevitably come in, or as I go to Minnesota, I was able to say, hey, this is what I did with Kyle Shanahan. So I know what that looks like. So what do you want to do? And I could always kind of use really good football minds as my foundation. And so I was very blessed to have started with them.
I was going to have you do this thing where you just had to use one word to describe all these coaches. I'm so glad you just naturally brought it up.
There you go.
But one word, I say Mike Shanahan, you say what? One word.
Man, okay. You say Mike Shanahan, I say leader.
I say Kyle Shanahan, you say?
Smart.
Sean McVay.
Similar word, I would say sharp.
Kevin O'Connell.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Kevin O'Connell, I always say, like, football mind. Like, he just has a football mind. I know that's 2 words. I apologize.
Canceled. Jay Gruden.
Jay. He's a great evaluator, I would say.
2 words.
Evaluator. He said evaluator.
Okay, evaluator. There you go.
I always respected his opinion, including of me. I just always thought he knew what he was talking about.
Raheem Morris.
Raheem Morris. Positive is the first word that comes to mind. But what I noticed the other day that he did that I loved was I watched a documentary on Jimmy Johnson where they talked about how Jimmy believed in what's called the Pygmalion effect, where you treat a man as he ought to be and he'll become that.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Treat a person as he is and he will remain as he is. Treat a person as if he were what he could be and should be, and he will become what he could be and should be.
And so Jimmy in the 90s would kind of talk people up with the expectation psychologically that over time they will be who I'm kind of speaking into existence that they'll be, and whether they were there yet or not. And I heard Raheem, do some of that at the team meeting the other day where, it was something about how we were going to handle the off day and how we're all pros and we're all going to, handle it well and make the right choices because that's who we are. And I thought, maybe we are, maybe we aren't. But I feel like the way he's treating us, the way he's talking to us, we're going to make the right choices, And so, I don't know, I just thought I would use the word positive, but it's this ability to kind of speak belief into people in an authentic way that enables them to kind of have their best self come to the surface. So
I had to ask about Zach Robinson. I grew up with Zach. Zach's 37 years old. I think you're 35, 2 years older. First year OC. Obviously that McVay Shanahan treat. Are there some similarities with what you've had before? Because, Raheem brought him over from the Rams. He was the hot name in the news cycle. Diana was reporting all about him. What have you seen so far in his first year as being able to be the guy calling plays?
He's certainly bringing some elements of the Rams that were familiar to me being in Minnesota. It also has been interesting to see, as you know, Chase, in one season how much an offense can evolve.
Yeah.
And I think back to what Kevin did in 2 seasons in Minnesota and some of the ideas he came up with that the Rams were not privy to, that he thought of over 2 years and introduced to me in Minnesota. And then Zach, likewise, with Matthew Stafford and Sean, with some of the things that they started doing with their offense, that as the 2 years passed, I felt like the offense has started to kind of do this and go their own directions based on their personnel and what came to their mind. So it was interesting now to kind of reconverge and have us meet, and I say, okay, let's talk about what we both have been doing the same, and then let's also talk about what we've both been doing differently and kind of be able to bring that together with some suggestions on both sides. So there's been a lot of that, but no, Zach's a great football mind, and you can tell coaches who have great suggestions and really always are thinking of the next wrinkle, and then there's the coaches who are just going to kind of copy what they've seen done and have a hard time innovating. They really just imitate. And I feel like Zach's more of an innovator where he can now take it to the next level and have it become the 2024 Falcons offense and evolve as opposed to just copying what the Rams have done and never being able to innovate but only imitate. So you want to be around innovators, and I think we have a good one in Zach.
I know this is a long journey for you, but just so far, wrapping this up, what have you learned about the Atlanta Falcons? What are they?
Well, I think we're a work in progress. I took a few guys down to go see John Gruden this spring, and just to kind of have him challenge us and kind of show us what we could be, but also what it's going to take to get there. And one of the things he drove home that I thought he hit the nail on the head is, there's perception and there's reality. And perception is the Atlanta Falcons have a bunch of talent. The Atlanta Falcons are going to, do this, this, and this. And his point was, that's perception. You got to go play 17 games and prove it. And so to me, I'm excited. I do think we have good pieces. But until it's reality, I don't really feel any assuredness. I just know we've got to go make it reality. And that's kind of my approach in meetings and practice and walkthroughs is let's have a sense of urgency that we go make it reality, and that it doesn't just, live in that world of perception.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All right, Kirk. Well, thanks so much for hanging out with us. We hope you enjoyed talking to our resident quarterback on the show here. I appreciate all the time. I feel like we've been in this thing together, right? Because we both started at the same time. It's been a long journey, a lot of growth, a lot of experiences. Good luck this season. Stay healthy. We hope you feel great, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Yeah, thanks for
you guys keep doing your thing. I hope to keep doing mine, and hopefully we can have a few more rounds in the years to come.
Let's do it. Thanks for tuning into Scoop City. If you want to hear more, make sure you like and subscribe. We drop our new episodes every Tuesday and Friday.